So today we'll be talking about something very, very important for anyone interested in real estate properties, either commercial property versus residential property. Which one would you consider? Between commercial property and residential property, which one will you consider? A lot of persons just buy probably because of the price or because other people are buying. So a lot of people hear the word investment and immediately they start looking for a property to buy. But before you buy any property, you need to understand what you are buying it for. So today, the difference between commercial property and residential property, the advantages of each, and the kind of goal each one may serve you. Then, if you are joining me live, please say hello in the comment section and tell me whether you are more interested in residential property or commercial property. So we are going to start the advantages now. First, advantages of commercial property. Let's start with commercial property. Commercial property is generally property intended for business or income-generating activities. For example, shops, offices, warehouses, commercial buildings, and other business spaces. Then advantage, income potential. One major reason people consider commercial property is the potential for rental or lease income. That's one of the major reasons people go into commercial property. A properly located commercial property can attract businesses that need a place to operate. Number two advantage of owning a commercial property. Business locations can have strong demand. Think about areas where people already go to shop, where they go to work, where they go to eat, where they receive services or conduct businesses. When there is economic activity around a location, commercial spaces may have opportunities to attract businesses. Advantage 3, multiple businesses. Depending on the property and the permitted use, remember you need permits to either use it for commercial or residential. A commercial space may accommodate different types of businesses, but this is where you have to do your own homework as an investor. Don't assume that because a property is called commercial, every business can automatically operate there. No. That's an excellent point. I want you to know that not everything can be sold on some places. Okay? Where you are, let's give an example with a filling station. The place where you can put a filling station, you cannot use it as a shopping mall. These are two different places. Remember, filling stations are strategically located around where the law is working, where filling stations are positioned, because whenever a disaster occurs and people are there, when the place is populated, it can be so hazardous to the resident or to the other people doing their commercial activities there. That is why filling stations ought to be in segregated areas where there are less population. But for a shopping mall needs an area that is populated, where people can just stop by to shop. A place where people are resident, where so much traffic is a movement. That is where you put commercial, that's where you put your shopping mall or your supermarket and every other shop where people shop for things they use on daily or for their daily activities. Then advantage number 4, long-term investment potential. Commercial property can also be considered as part of a long-term property portfolio. But again, location matters, accessibility matters, demand matters, documentation and actual numbers matter. You need to consider all those things. Now let's go to advantages of owning a residential property. Now let's come to residential property properly. Residential property is property intended for people to live in houses, or apartments. If you are just joining us, remember to drop your video more to those who are likely to benefit from it. You know, so many persons make decisions on daily basis, but making the right decisions at the right time is the most important thing. We are facing economic downtime, and this is not the time to make a financial and colossal waste mistake by investing into the wrong thing. So we are still talking about advantages of owning residential property. If you have any questions, do not forget to drop your questions in the comment section, and you can also reach us through +2347037492941. You can reach PJ Global Realty from these numbers below, and you can ask us any questions concerning real estate. Remember, PJ Global Realty is affiliated with brokerage firms and developers like the Common Sense Group, like the Billionaire Realtors Group, and like other ones like Arcview, like Just Point, and some other real estate companies. So let us continue our class. We have been emphasizing on commercial properties. Now we want to begin with residential property. Now let's come to residential properly, like I have stated before. This property is intended for people who intended to live in houses, apartments, terraces, duplexes, and similar homes. The advantage of owning a residential property, it consists of housing. It needs people. It means that people will live in. So that you can't invest in residential property and lose. That's one reason residential property remains an important part of the real estate market. People will always live in houses. There will always be reason why people always get accommodation. Yes, people will always need accommodation. So rental opportunities. If you own a suitable residential property in an area with rental demand, you may be able to generate rental income. But don't just hear rental income and rush to buy. You need to investigate the actual demand. You need to know what is really needed in that area, in that particular location. Matters. Is it bungalow? Are they in need of duplexes? Are they in need of 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom? Are they in need of terraces? Are they in need of pet houses? So it depends on what is being needed at a particular location that will determine where you will channel your investment to. Residential property doesn't always have to be about investments. You can buy because you want a home for yourself or your family. Advantage of owning residential property, another one. Different entry points. Residential property also comes in different forms and price ranges. So depending on your financial capacity and your goal, you may have different options to consider. So we started a series and today we'll continue. So which one will you buy? Will you rather invest in commercial properties or will you rather invest in residential property? Drop your comments in the comment section. Let us know which one you'll be willing to invest in if you are to go into investment in real estate. We are waiting for your question. So which one is better, commercial or residential? So my answer is, if you ask me which one should you go for, my answer is, it depends on your goal. If your primary goal is to provide a home for yourself, residential property may make more sense. If your goal is to operate a business or potentially generate income, you might need to go for commercial property. So it all depends on something you are trying to achieve. You must have a goal of what you are trying to achieve before putting in your hard-earned money into properties, into owning real estate. So drop in the comment section, where will you want to invest in? Will you want to invest in commercial properties, or will you want to invest in residential properties? What is suitable for commercial properties is likely not to be suitable for residential property. The goal is to build your own home. Your priorities may include other things. And if your goal, it may include your accessibility, the neighborhood, infrastructure, and whether the environment suits your lifestyle. Yeah. You know, we all have different kind of lifestyle that we want to operate in. But if your goal is for income, just to generate income, for rental income, you need to think about who your potential tenants are and whether there is demand for rental in that location. Accommodation in that location matters on who you bring in or who you put in your own investment. Long-term investment, remember, like as I've said, if you are thinking of long-term investments, you still need to think of the development surrounding the area, the accessibilities, and other factors that will influence the property's future. Unless you just want to invest for investment's sake, you don't have a goal. And it will be an error for you to invest without having any goal to achieve. No one does anything without having a goal to achieve at the end of the day. If you are just joining, remember to subscribe to this channel, comment, like, and share. Drop your question in the comment section. Will you like to go into commercial investments in real estate, or will you want to do residential investment in real estate? Which of them will you want to invest in? If you are to invest in real estate, where will you focus on? Will you just focus on owning a house? You know, some of us are just comfortable with building a house. Once you're able to build a 3-bedroom house that you are living in, just with you and your family and your kids, you are good. You know, the realest business, the only real business in this world is real estate. Every other thing is traded on the ground, on the land. So the land on which you are standing on is real estate. And that is why real estate is not just anyhow business. It's a business that it is done by serious-minded people. You don't just wake up and throw your money around. You need to set a goal for yourself. You need to have reasons, strong reasons why you want to go into real estate. And if you must go into commercial real estate, if you are choosing the commercial purposes, you must know the right documentations that you need, that is required for you to succeed in that area. I heard Robert Kiyosaki said the first house he bought was a bungalow. The last time I was listening to him 3 days ago, he said he regretted selling off the house because that was the house he himself and Kim used in starting life. They bought that house, and from there they started getting rental incomes while they were still living in rented apartments. You know, the Tolumide Emmanuel, my mentor, because I also work with his company, we always say that if you have just a house that you live with your family and your kids, you are not doing commercial real estate yet. You only have a house, a roof over your head. You are not in business. Why? Because that's a liability. You are paying all the money. If there's any money that are paying the environment, you are still paying. You pay for security, you pay for electricity, you're still paying. There's no difference between you and someone that is living. The only difference I can see categorically is just that when they are calling landlord, you also come out. But you are making all the payments. But you can actually own a house if you want to invest in real estate. You build your first house, put it on renters while you are still on renters. From the house that you put on renters, your rent is being paid and you are generating other incomes. The house you built and you place on renters is there generating income for you. The house is still paying your rent. So by the end of the day, when you get rent from the house you place on renters, and now you now get the money, you remove all your expenses. If the house is giving you 6 million naira per year, and the house where you live is 1.5 million naira, when you deduct 1.5 million naira from 6 million naira, you still have 4.5. And you remove maintenance, probably 1.5 million naira again, that's 3 million. That was what Robert Kiyosaki did. He said he got the first apartment. He bought it. While the house was generating income for him, he was living in a rented apartment. And from there, they were able to get another place while they were getting other accommodation for people. While they were buying other houses, they look for old houses, they buy it, renovate it, and put it on renters. So by the time they deduct all their expenses, they remove all their expenses, they still have earned income from that money. So they didn't lose anything. But when you just build a house that is just for you, your kids, your wife, you people are just living in that house, it's a liability, it's not an asset. It is not an asset. You can go and study all the billionaires in the world that are into real estate. There's definitely no billionaire that doesn't do real estate. They are all into real estate, although they might have other sources of income, but they all belong to the real estate gang. If you check, they don't have one house. They don't just live in one apartment and they just build it and that is it. No. They go into the commercials. They invest. They spread their tentacles. They put their houses on lease. So we're still talking about commercial and residential properties. Remember, the residential property is intended for people who live in houses, apartments, terraces, duplexes, and similar homes. And the number one advantage, like I said before, is consistent housing. Housing need people. People will always need somewhere to live. That's one reason residential property remains an important part of the real estate market. People will always live in homes. The second advantage is rental opportunities. If you own a suitable residential property in an area with rental demand, you may be able to generate rental income. That is very accurate. But don't just hear rental income and rush to buy. You need to investigate the actual rental demand in that particular location. Every location has their different demands. Personal use. Residential property doesn't always have to be about investment. You can buy because you want a home for yourself. But remember, the home you bought for yourself is not an asset or your family. The different entry points. Residential property also comes in different forms and prices ranges. So depending on your financial capacity and your goal, your financial capacity and your goal have a lot to do. You may have different options to consider. So which should you go for? Are you going for commercial property or you are going for residential property? Comment in the comment section which of them you want to go for. Is it commercial or residential? So if you ask me the question, I will tell you that it depends on your goal. If your primary goal is to provide a home for yourself, then residential property may make more sense to you at that particular time. If your goal is to operate a business or potentially generate income from a business location, commercial property may be worth investigating. And if you are investing, don't simply ask which property is more expensive. No, ask, what am I trying to achieve with this property? Who is the target occupant or customer? You must have a target market. What is the demand in that location? Like as I said earlier. And does the investment make sense from my financial goal? Don't start a financial investment that you get stuck. No, you need to calculate. And that brings me to what we'll be discussing in real estate class. Your property investment should match your financial goals. I've made several videos on this. Your goals is very important. So rather than just buying because somebody told you a property is out, first, understand what you want your money to achieve. Then, and that's exactly what you are going into. So in episode 4 of our real estate class, let me introduce it to you properly. We did episode 1, episode 2, episode 3. How to match your property investment with your financial goals. That was our topic. So before you buy your next property, I want you to answer one question. What exactly do you want your money to achieve? Because not every property is suitable for every financial goal. Building a home. If your goal is to build your own home, your priorities may include location, accessibility, neighborhood, infrastructure, and whether the environment suits your lifestyle. 2, rental income. If your goal is rental income, you need to think about who your potential tenants are and whether there is demand for rental accommodation in that location. 3, long-term investment. If you are thinking about long-term investment, you need to study the location surrounding your development. You need to study that area, accessibility, and other factors. You must be certain about it, because putting your money into investment where people cannot access, where people cannot go, where people cannot live. I see beautiful homes built in lonely areas. You see the areas deserted. Nobody is staying there, but there are beautiful homes there. There are duplexes there. You just go and invest in an hotel. You build a hotel, Airbnb in one deserted area. Who is coming to book an hotel there? Who is coming there for reservation? So you must consider some of the important things by knowing exactly where exactly to invest. So that is very, very important, that you don't just invest in an area and expect your income to start coming. So liquidity is very, very important. When you are investing in real estate, you must consider, when I want to liquidate, how fast can I get my money out? That is why some persons, they hardly get buyers to buy their property. They want to sell, but nobody is buying. It could be the location, accessibility, the neighborhood, the infrastructure, developmental structures around that area. What's the commerce within where your property is located? What companies are there? Who are the people that is likely to come there to seek for accommodations? Those things are very important. An environment where there are a lot of industries, you should know that workers will get accommodation. If you have a property around the university, of course, students will get accommodation. Business will thrive in that area because people want to serve the student. There will always be commerce around a university environment. Have you been to any university in Nigeria? You see shops, businesses littered everywhere. You see hostels everywhere. Campuses are even stopping to build hostels within the school. Now, students prefer to live outside the university than inside the university. So you consider a lot of things. There are places where before anybody parks out, another person is ready to pay. Why there are some places that some locations that when a tenant relocates, the next 6 months, nobody is there to replace the tenant. Why? Because of the location, because of the development in that area. So nobody is coming to replace the tenant living. And if you try to increase your rent, they might all pack out. But there are some locations that if you increase the renters, it doesn't matter because nobody is ready to live. They know how exposed, how developed, they know how effective that location is to their own personality, to their lifestyle. The area is built to match, to suit their lifestyle. So they're not ready to leave the area for anybody. So when you have a property in that location, you are so sure that your rental income generation, your rental income is not certain. When you invest 80 million naira in getting a location, and by the end of 10 years, you've not been able to get your 80 million naira, that's a colossal waste. It is a waste. You should be able to make your money back within the shortest period of time. So I cannot advise you on which to go for. It all depends on your goal, and it all depends on your finance, and it all depends on what you intend to achieve. So you have the final say on which of the properties you should invest in. Nobody should turns you into deciding which of the properties to go in. If you want residential, make your decision. If you want a commercial, make your decision. And when you do your due diligence, you make sure that the decision you are taking, you will not regret it at the end of the day. Then you can proudly say that you are in business. So if you are just joining, remember that you can reach us on +234 7037492941. That's where you can reach us, ask your questions, and we'll answer. We'll take as many that we can take. Drop your questions in the comment section. Any concerns you have concerning real estate, remember to drop it in the comment section. Before you buy your next property, I want you to answer one question. What exactly do you want your money to achieve? Because not every property is suitable for every financial goal. Make the right decision. Make the right decision so you won't regret making any investment decision that you make. When you study the location surrounding development and assess how easy it is to access the place, that will influence the property future usefulness and how the demand will be. So commercial use, if your goal is to do business, don't just buy because the land is cheap. A cheap land does not mean that commercial business will thrive there. Visibility is very important. The population surrounding is very important. So buying because you have money, and please don't make this mistake. Money has entered my account, so let me quickly buy any property. No. Decide what you want the money to accomplish. Then look for a property that fits that goal. So before you buy your next property, don't start with how much it is. Start with what do I want this property to achieve for me. Once you understand your goal, you can begin looking for a property that matches it. I am Pazina, the CEO of PJ Global Realty. Remember to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bye.